now on to the Carrie episode. So this is sort of the prologue to what's going to be the audio version of your biography, and
Yes.
then I'm just saying this for the audience
Yes,
at home who
I
they're
understand.
listening. Yeah, and so we're going to be going through your family tree because you're the
Okay.
only person who's here to tell us about your parents and
Yes.
and their parents and
Sadly.
any stories or any descriptions of who they are, what they did, what they were like. So let's get right into it. And I think I'm gonna do this in reverse. I think it might work better if we start further out and then end with your parents. And
Okay.
yeah, so I don't have your great grandparents written down
Okay.
here, but if you want to talk about them.
Okay, right there.
So Constantine.
So we'll start with Constantine, if that's
Yep.
okay with you.
That's okay with me.
My dad used to tell a lot of stories that my sister and I never believed. And he used to drive around with people who were visiting, and he'd say, this land used to belong to my grandpa, and this land used to belong to my grandpa, and he was a doctor.
So this is your dad?
My
saying this?
dad was
Okay.
talking
Yep.
about
Constantine.
about Constantine,
Mhm.
who actually was his grandpa, not his dad.
Okay.
And he'd say, he was a doctor, and my sister and I never believed him until my cousin, I made contact with a cousin in Florida who sent me my grandpa's birth certificate that showed that his father, Constantine, had been a physician.
No?
And Constantine came from Prussia with his wife, Mary Friederberger.
Beautiful pronunciation.
Something like that. And he actually practiced medicine in Sebring, which is low in the thumb of Michigan.
Okay.
And he had to register for the draft of the Civil War.
Okay.
And on his draft registration, it shows that he had been in the Prussian army. Now, Prussia became part of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you knew all that.
Well, only recently.
Okay.
I'm not that smart. But yeah, I
Okay.
did just recently learn about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I never knew Constantine Kinderman, and I told my sister Connie how surprised I was to find out that he really had been a physician.
Yeah.
Because my sister said, no, I never believed that.
Yeah.
And my sister Connie said, oh yeah, he was a physician.
Okay.
Because I never thought there were any physicians in my family.
Right.
So their son, Charles.
Well, backing up, that's a physician in the 1800s, so he's. Right?
Yes, 1800s.
Yeah.
1800s.
After the Civil War.
And maybe, probably not. Probably only 1800s.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So he's doing crazy stuff, right?
Well, they
amputations with a saw and.
What did they have?
Yeah, exactly.
What did they have?
Yeah.
But he never was in the Civil War.
Oh, he just had to register.
He just had to register
Okay.
for the draft.
Okay.
And he had a lot of sons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe 4 or 5, I don't know. But I only knew of them pretty much.
So, but he came from Prussia.
He and
was
his
the
wife
immigrant.
Mary
Okay.
came from Prussia to the
Okay.
United States. And I can talk about.
Let's talk about Charles
Or I can come
Kinderman.
back
No,
here.
we'll split
Okay.
these two off into 2 halves.
Okay.
So Charles Kinderman,
So
Constantine's son.
yes, Charles Kinderman, of course, was Prussian, totally Prussian, which we always call German.
Mm-hmm.
And he married this woman, Dorilla, whom we always called Delia. And Delia's family was all.
Was that her nickname, or were you a kid and you could have pronounced Dorilla?
I never knew she was Dorilla or Darila until I did Ancestry.
Oh, okay.
Because there are other Darilas in the Ancestry. No, I think even her death certificate probably says Delia.
Okay.
However, Delia's family was all French, came totally from French Canada, but was somehow or other found herself in the United States to marry Charlie.
Do you think this is a similar thing to what Grandpa was saying? They were shipping ladies over?
I don't know what Grandpa said, but I will tell you about the French women.
Yeah.
The Frenchmen settled New France, which was Quebec, and there were only men there.
Yep.
And there were all these young women in France who didn't have enough. They were poor, didn't have enough money for a dowry, so they couldn't get married. And the king gave them 500, whatever, not dollars,
francs or
something,
whatever,
and put them in what was called steerage of the boats. Well, that's where they kept the animals. And they came over, they were called the king's daughters, and they came over in the bottom of the boat.
Yep.
And they were required to marry someone within 2 years and hopefully reproduce lots of children so they could populate New France. And they had to give $300 to their new husband.
Okay, so that was like their dowry from the king.
Yes, and they could keep, I can't remember, 100 or 200, but to make the math work, it would have been 200.
Yep.
So that's where Darila came from.
Okay. I
do remember Grandpa and Grandma Kinderman, Charlie and his wife. We used to visit them regularly on Sundays after church. And sometimes my Aunt Delia, who was Darila's daughter, and her son would be there, who was my age, who actually went to high school with me, would be there, and we did stay overnight there, my sister and I, one night. I don't know why. I think something must have been happening in the family that they needed us away.
So when did your grandpa and grandma, were they born in Michigan? I don't know if you said that or.
Grandpa Kinderman was born in Michigan. And Delia was, Grandma Kinderman was also.
And what city did they grow up in? Sorry if you don't know. We can come back to it if it pops in to your head. I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know if they were. I'd have to do some research on that. In as much as Constantine, the physician, was practicing in Seguin, but I think that all those boys, Charlie Kinderman and his brothers, grew up in Bay City. Whether or not they were born there, I don't know. I think Delia also was a Bay Cityan, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, just trying to get a mental map of where everybody is.
Delia was a little woman, probably about 4'10".
Oh, that is little.
And Grandpa Kinderman was at least 6 foot. At least 6 foot.
Well, that's how it usually goes. For some reason, like tall guys like to get with really short girls.
Well, Delia had diabetes, and she died rather young by today's standards, maybe in her 50s.
Looks like she was 68, or is that not right? So
Yeah, she was 68.
Okay.
Well, she seemed young to me.
Well, compared to
Yeah.
Charles, who was almost 100.
He was, and he had a stroke, and my dad farmed him around. My dad had about 5 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
To the sisters, and they would take care of him and get tired of him and move him on to another sister
Mm-hmm.
and another sister. And his youngest sister was not about to care for him, nor was my father.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had him in a nursing home, and in those days a nursing home was a house that had 3 or 4 patients in it.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had to garnish is the word. My uncle, actually my aunt's husband's wages at Dow Chemical Company to help pay for the
okay.
nursing home. My dad went up there every single day and shaved him. And he would disappear overnight once in a while.
Your dad?
My grandpa.
Oh, your grandpa. He just like escaped?
Even after, yeah.
He was able.
Even after his stroke.
Yeah.
And it was kind of thought that he might have had a woman where he would stay overnight and then come back.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny. Yeah, it was kind of funny. And
so you definitely so you remember both these grandparents because
yes,
yeah, they were around for quite a while.
And your dad and your uncles and Aunt Therese, or Uncle Therese as you used to call
my dad
her.
and uncles.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess it was just Steve and Therese went to his funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And were kind of horrified to meet Delia, Derilla's daughter. My dad's sister, because
mm-hmm.
she'd had a tracheostomy or a tracheotomy, and it was left open, and she'd cover it and talk to them, and they were like, oh.
Because they were 12, yeah. 10, 12.
I think they were more like 5 and 4 or 6 in
72.
72. Trish was, yeah. Trish was born in 60. Yeah, they were older than I thought. Mm-hmm. Well, then maybe Paul and
I'm sure it freaked them all out.
Paul and Mark were there too. Yeah. But what I do remember.
She had that from smoking? She a smoker?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. She had a thyroidectomy that went sour.
Oh, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. And I do recall that we went up there for the funeral, and we stayed overnight at my folks' house, and my sister was there with her kids, who were your dad's cousins, and they all slept in the living room on the floor on the rug, and my dad slept on the floor with them, which was remarkable since I would never sleep for 24 hours if I had to lie on the floor on a rug, but he did it.
So what was Charles and Delia? Was Delia a stay-at-home mom? Or?
Yes, she was.
And then what did Charles do?
Charles, as I find on Ancestry, that he did something on the police force. What I remember was Winona Beach. Winona Beach was a beach on the bay, Saginaw Bay, and it had an amusement park. And he was a security officer there. And I recall 2 things. Once my dad took us out there and we walked around following him, trying to keep up with him because he was such a tall man. I remember that. And I remember another time going out to that amusement park. And we got on what was called the jackrabbit, which my dad would never ever again let us ride because it jumped off the track and fell and killed people.
Jeez.
It was an old wooden.
Yeah.
What do you call those things?
Wooden roller coaster, right?
Roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I was so little, we got on the roller coaster and we went for a ride on the roller coaster, and we got off the roller coaster, and I had no sense that we were back where we started. I thought we went somewhere on that roller coaster, and we went and we watched them roller skate at Winona Beach, which was something that I did a lot when I was a teenager. So that's the only, those are the major memories I have of my grandpa.
Okay. I guess let's jump there. So other side, your mom's side, those great grandparents. So let's talk about them.
Okay. Well, your dad helped us find this, that my great grandfather in Iowa, they lived in Iowa, made some claim that some woman wasn't exactly pure, and she got mad at him and asked him to take it back, and he wouldn't take it back, and so she shot and killed him.
Whoa.
Which made great grandma a widow. And there was a trial, and she was proclaimed not of stable mind when she did it. But that left her as a widow.
That's crazy. So how old was? Do you know how old your great grandma was when that happened?
I don't.
No.
I don't. But she had children. Now,
well, you know that they have a saying nowadays about exactly that.
What?
It's talk shit, get shot. That's what happened to them in the 1800s.
It did. Harry, let me see if I've got the right. Yeah, my grandfather actually came over on the boat.
Was it Harry or Henry? Henry? Harry.
It was both.
Oh, both, whatever it was. Okay, so Henry Roberts.
He was legally Henry.
Okay.
And he and his brothers and his mother came over on the boat from England.
Okay.
And
so with dad and mom, great grandpa, great grandma, you're right.
I'm not quite sure, the story's not quite clicking right now, but his mother.
They could have all come over, right?
I think maybe this was. I'm not sure. Maybe this is the one whose husband was shot, the Van Dyke.
Okay.
Milligan Roberts. I'll have to get that straight for you. I'm really sorry.
I'll put an appendix at the end of this.
Yeah. So he came over on the boat from England with his brothers. He was a iron miner in England. And he came with his brothers and his mother, and they brought hard-boiled eggs to eat on the boat, and they had half a hard-boiled egg a day.
Ooh. That's it?
That was it, until they got here.
Well, how long was the journey? Do you know?
Well, I just asked Grandpa, and I said, was it about 4 days? He said, I think maybe it was 7 days.
Yeah, lose some weight.
Yeah. So there wasn't any iron mining in the area. Of course there is in the Upper Peninsula, but there wasn't down in the Lower Peninsula, and he and his brothers had to become coal miners. So they actually migrated over to Iowa, and that whole family is spread from Iowa.
Okay.
And I have a article that was written in the paper about how he and his brothers started the union for coal miners.
Oh, cool.
Over there.
Yeah, that's neat.
And then I think he and his wife Eleanor left all that family behind in Iowa and came to Bangor Township outside of Bay City, between Bay City and the Bay.
Okay.
And bought 15 acres and on Bangor Road in Bangor Township, and he got a job at the coal mine, which was right at almost the very end of Bangor Road, next to the bay. And when my mother went to high school, which my father didn't, but my mother would drive the horse and buggy to high school and leave my grandpa to have to walk the 2 miles out to work at the coal mine and walk back. I don't know much about him or how he died.
Henry Roberts.
Yes.
Okay.
What I do know about this family is that during the Depression, my parents and my older sister Connie went to live with them in the farmhouse that my mother had grown up in. My mother moved to that farmhouse when she was 3 years old. And make that 7. And my parents went and lived there, and my grandpa worked at the coal mine until he couldn't breathe any longer. And then, maybe even worse, he set up a chicken farm.
Okay.
So then the chicken farm
the coal dust wasn't enough.
Transmitted histoplasmosis to us all.
Yeah.
But during the Depression, my parents went and lived with them, and they rolled up the rug and took the furniture out of the parlor, and they put chicken incubators in there, and they incubated the eggs until they had chicks, and then they would sell some of the chicks, they would raise some of the chickens, and they would sell eggs as well. And that's how they had food to get through the Depression.
It looks like they both died like very soon together.
It looks like it, doesn't it? My grandma, however, died after my grandpa, and she was paralyzed for some reason below the waist. And it's not well documented, but my dad always had to lift her up and put her on the toilet inside the house and then take her off, and he always insisted that she could have stood up if she'd wanted to. But her death certificate says that she was paralyzed.
Okay. From something.
From something.
Okay.
Who knows?
No.
So that brings me through, to the best of my knowledge, both of my grandparents.
Yep. So what year were you born?
I was born in 1937.
Okay, so your mom's side grandparents were dead before you were
They
alive.
were.
So, but you did know the Kinderman.
I did
side.
know the Kinderman side.
Okay.
And I didn't know any of their siblings, any of the Roberts or Holland siblings. Nor did I know any of my Grandpa Kinderman or Grandma Kinderman's siblings. So it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, That's how it goes sometimes.
But people just didn't live that long either.
Right. Except for this guy, Charles.
Yeah. But
That's
you know, yeah, he
a long time.
He couldn't much talk after that stroke, but
Mhm.
he lived a long time afterwards. And
so he was still mobile, though. But he
he'd go out and catch that bus and go somewhere,
Yeah.
and nobody knew where he went. My dad would get a call, he didn't come home.
So then let's talk about your parents.
Okay.
So Russell Kinderman, or Constantine Alfred Kinderman.
My father was baptized Constantine Alfred, and who knows when he became Russell. He was farmed out to his cousin's farm during the summer to do farm work, because he had about 5 sisters, and it was a little difficult feeding that whole family. And I didn't know that until I met a couple of his cousins at his funeral. They came to his funeral, and I said, who are you?
Yeah.
And that's what they said. I don't think life was very good for him growing up, because from everything I hear, his mother was a pretty tough lady. And life, I think, probably had to be kind of tough, because he lied his age to get into the army in the First World War. And your dad told me this story, that he and his buddy went to the Bay County, registration, to try to get into the army.
Okay.
And the officer said, "You guys are just kids. Look, you're still wearing short pants." They probably were wearing what Americans would call knickers, just below the knees.
Yep.
And you go home. So they went home, and they somehow got a car, and they drove to Iowa. Have you heard this story?
I'm recalling something, but keep going.
They drove to Iowa, and on the way they found a scarecrow with long pants. And they took the long pants off the scarecrow, and they took turns going in and getting registered to be in the army. So my dad was in the cavalry.
So he was like, what, 14 or 15?
I think maybe 17, maybe 16.
Okay. Right.
Grandpa thinks he was 17.
Yeah.
So that's how they got in. And since he had this farming background, he was put into the cavalry. So he was in the cavalry in France during World War I. Now, the United States was probably only entered World War I about 1 year before it was over. But nonetheless, it couldn't have been good, and it must have been an awfully hard way to grow up.
Yep.
And it must have left bad impressions on him. He didn't, since he only went to the 8th grade, and he went to Trombley School on Bangor Road, and my mother, since there was no school whatsoever in Bangor Township, initially up till the 2nd grade, went up to Trombley School as well. So they both were going to school together. Let's see.
Together. They're at the same.
Same grade.
Oh, cool.
They were born a week apart. They were born a week apart. My mother was a week older than him. And so he went to Trombley School until the 8th grade, and then he found other ways of not having to go to school anymore.
So that's obviously how they met. They were in class together.
Yes. And on top of that, Charlie Kinderman, my grandpa Kinderman, and Harry Roberts, my grandpa Roberts, whom I didn't know, were very close. And in the days of Prohibition, they would go out together at night, and somewhere they would find alcohol.
Yep.
Because the story is that my grandpa Roberts would come home and he would vomit up peanuts. And my grandma had no idea what they were up to.
Yeah.
And she'd say, I don't know why H eats those peanuts. He knows they always make him sick.
But meanwhile, they're just getting drunk, pounding peanuts together. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they were, those two were quite close.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds a little bit like they were encouraged, these two were encouraged to get married.
Yeah.
A little bit about my mother. What can I say about her? She was a very placid woman, and she worked so very, very, very hard. As probably my dad did, since he worked. My dad had worked initially on the railroad
Mm-hmm.
out of Detroit as a fireman, which meant that he stoked the engine for the steam locomotives.
Yes.
And he studied, and he went to Canada, and he took an oral test with a Scotsman, a Canadian, and an American to become a certified steam locomotive engineer, which he passed. So he was a certified steam locomotive engineer, but the Depression occurred, and he never got past being a fireman.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty soon that dried up too.
Yep.
And so times were so tough that they had to move in with my grandparents.
Okay. Which ones? The Charlie?
The Roberts.
The Roberts. Okay.
The farmers.
Okay.
And Eleanor, as I already described, that she did go to high school, but she missed a year on the way because she got scarlet fever, and from that she got St. Vitus dance.
What's that?
Which is, she got scarlet fever, she got rheumatic fever, and she got St. Vitus dance, all from one disease. Mm-hmm. St. Vitus dance you don't see anymore because people don't get rheumatic fever either anymore. Mm-hmm. They get penicillin and that, but there was no penicillin. St. Vitus dance is a disease in which one loses control of their limbs, and so she had uncontrolled activity of her limbs.
Oh.
That's all I know about it.
Yeah.
Because St. Vitus dance doesn't much exist anymore.
Right.
They always said the worst thing in the world to have would be bad arthritis and St. Vitus dance both.
Oh,
but she didn't have arthritis then.
Yeah.
Anyway. So she started out at Trombley School. At the age of 7, she went to the new school, Mount Vernon, which was two rooms. Mm-hmm. And her brothers also went to that school. She was born on the farm, as were her brothers. They were born in the farmhouse. She worked in the garden. My dad always had a big garden. I think as a result of the Depression. He grew enough food for about 20 people, and we worked the garden, and he gave food to the neighbors mm-hmm. and all the relatives inside Bay City. And my mother, it was very hot. It was a very hot house to live in, but on hot days, she'd be canning tomatoes and canning peaches and canning everything. Mm-hmm. And in order to can, she and my brother had to pump all the water and bring it into this big, it was called a double boiler.
Okay.
Pour it in onto the coal stove, which was hot.
Yeah.
And get it to boiling, and then put put the jars into the boiler on the coal stove.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard. She not only had to help grow and harvest the food, but she also had to can it.
Yeah.
And
what would make this 100-degree day better? A coal stove. Jeez.
And then of course we ate the canned foods. Now once the food was canned, we had to carry it down in what was called a Michigan cellar.
Mm-hmm.
It was dirt, and we'd go way to the far end, crouched over like this all the way, and we'd put the canning jars on the shelves. But also back there was a bin that had carrots and potatoes. And they were fine in October and November and December, but as the winter wore on, we'd have to go down and get them, and we'd put our hands in to get them, and they were half rotten,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we'd like, oh, wow, we didn't like doing that, but I can't.
So what would you do with rotten carrots? How do you eat those? How do you prepare those?
Well, we just brought up what we, you know,
Okay.
and some of them, they
Some
weren't
are
all
fine.
rotten.
Okay.
But
you get a mushy one.
Yeah, it was bad enough having to bring them up, but I'm sure it was a whole lot worse to have to peel them and cook them
Mm-hmm.
for us. So that was our food, and we also had a cow, and my dad milked the cow while he worked swing shift at Dow's. That meant he worked 7 days, 2 days off, 7 days afternoon, 2 days off, 7 days night.
So what was he doing at Dow?
Because of his background and his license as a steam locomotive engineer,
Mm-hmm.
he worked in the power department with their turbines. He called them turbines,
Yeah.
and produced electricity only for Dow Chemical, not for Midland,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So it was said that we had a swing cow as well, a swing shift cow.
Mm-hmm.
My dad would milk, and my mother would strain it through a muslin cloth when he'd bring it in, and then she'd put it into the refrigerator. And then she'd bring it out later, and she had this spoon, and she would skim off all the cream, and we would churn butter. And I think the only thing she didn't do was make bread.
Mm-hmm.
But she did make cakes and pies and wonderful stuffed chickens for Sunday meals.
Yeah.
On that old coal stove. I don't know why, but I listened to her heart once when I took her to the doctor, and I listened to my dad's too, but it was like a washing machine listening to her heart. It wasn't this love dub,
Mm-hmm.
love dub. And it was probably from the rheumatic fever. But and this is probably what caused her to have dementia. By the time she was 75, 76, it was obviously there and
Mm-hmm.
getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
So she did live to be
82.
Well, I think she lived to be 82 probably, because they were both born in May. So
Mm-hmm.
and these dates aren't exactly right. My well, maybe they are. I 82 and 84. I was thinking that he died a year later. Their last few years, well, they lived in Florida, but my dad had something crazy happening that he would sell a house in Bay City and he'd go to Florida, move my mother, who couldn't remember anything,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd live in Florida for a while, and then I think he'd get, I don't know, I just felt like he probably got anxious and thought he'd feel better back in Bay City. So they'd come back, he'd sell that house and they'd come back to Bay City and he'd buy another house in Bay City, and they did this, and your grandpa wanted to make me feel better, and he said, they're probably making money on those houses. But it got to the point where my dad really couldn't take care of my mother because his heart was, he had aortic stenosis and he had to have a pacemaker. And so we went down and brought them back, and I decided that the best place for them was the nursing home in Saline.
Which is where you were living at the time?
No, we were living here.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was concerned because as a businesswoman, I had lunches with men periodically, and my dad was mobile, and I was concerned that if my dad saw me with a man, he would make a big scene right on the street.
Yeah.
And so I decided that it was better to have them somewhere else.
Okay.
And so my mother's dementia got very bad, and
so were they in the same nursing home together?
They were in the same room. And then after she died, he was in a room. He was actually able to stay in a room downstairs where he was taking care of himself, although I was going and doing a lot of taking care of. So, but he lived about, my understanding, as I recall, was my mother died on my brother's birthday, July 27th, and then the next year, my dad died on my sister's birthday, August 27th. So I'm not quite sure about those years. In my life, I had a wonderful uncle, my mother's baby brother, and he had been very active during the World War II campaign, and he'd fought, and he had a Purple Heart and multiple times, and he would come home for when he'd get a leave from the service, but it was frequently at Christmas, and when he'd come, it was always a nice Christmas.
Yeah, the cool uncle was around, yeah. So what happened to him?
Let me take a breath.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
When I graduated from medical school, his doctors told him that he had to have surgery, and I didn't really pay much attention about it. But he told his doctors, I have to go to my niece's graduation. So he came to my graduation, and your grandpa threw a party for me afterwards, and he was at the party, and we were working on a family tree, and we were going to work on it some more, and he all of a sudden got up and said, I have to leave, I have to get back in order to have my surgery. We left the next day, went to California, and then we went up to Seattle to see my sister. And when I got to Seattle, there was a message, and the message said, call your uncle's stepdaughter. And I called, and they said, we're very sorry to tell you, but he didn't survive the surgery. He had an aortic aneurysm, and they couldn't sew it back up. And so he virtually died from his surgery.
Okay.
But
What was the surgery for?
his surgery was for the aortic aneurysm.
Oh, okay.
And he did have a big, huge smoking history. Your dad would laugh if you ask him about it, because he used to come to our house and he'd roll his Bull Durham, as did my dad.
Yeah.
Roll his Bull Durham, and he drank plenty.
Yeah.
But he was a good, kind man, and we loved him a lot.
Good. Well, you want to talk about anybody else? We're going to talk more about your dad and your mom next time. So,
really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it'll be you growing up
Okay.
on the farm, swinging
Okay.
from the rafters and all that.
Okay.
We talk about your uncle some more during that.
Okay.
And but anyone, really your grandparents and great grandparents. If there's anything else you want to talk about, otherwise we can.
No, I just need to straighten out which one got shot.
Which one got shot? Yeah.
And get that straightened out. When we were young, my mother always told us that we were Scotch, Irish, Dutch, English, Welsh, German, and French.
Okay, it's easy to remember.
Yeah. My dad was German and French, and my mother was Scotch, Irish, Dutch, and English. However, when your dad did my DNA, I ended up 75% British, and then 25% German and French, which and there was a lot of joking about who really was your father.
Yeah.
Because where was the German and French, and why was I so British?
Yeah. That's funny.
But my dad, on his deathbed, said, "You know, Carrie, you know what your problem is?"
Good. Here's your last words, Dad.
Just about.
Yeah.
I said, "What's that?" He says, "You're too much like your mother." He said, "You've got to speak up for yourself and stick up for yourself." Well, he used to browbeat the daylights out of that woman constantly. And I think it was just, the way he had to grow up was so rough on him.
Yeah.
And for him to tell me that I need to stick up for myself was like, really, Dad? But I didn't say it. But he said that to me the last time I saw him.
Well, you don't strike me as someone who doesn't stick up for yourself, so I guess you could take his advice with a grain of salt. Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. This was very nice.
That was fun.
I don't know what to do about pictures, but.
Oh, we'll throw them in here.
And I hope I didn't talk too much.
Oh no, that was great. I think we're probably on track the same amount of time as Grandpa. Let's see.